Hey folks, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, whatever the case may be. That's how I introduce myself. Introduce my videos on my other channel. Anyways, yeah, as you can see, this down here is a diamond painting that I'm currently working on. For my other that I show on my other channel. I have a notebook here that I got on clearance from Walmart to keep track of my notes that I'm writing down to do with my #1 favorite channel, with the Hales and all the other stuff that I want to talk about to do with that channel. In my last video, I went over these notes, and and then I started writing notes about the neighbors. And well, it's longer than just this much, and there's lots. And then I got to thinking, because of my squirrel brain, it helps to write things down, but I think I'll probably write notes as I remember them and talk about them on here. So, I mentioned in my last video What the Hales, starring Jeremy Hales, and his fiance George. That's her middle name, her legal middle name. They bought property. They bought 70 plus acres of property in a little town in Florida called Otter Creek, and it's in Levy County. Now, at some point, around the time, like shortly after they bought the property, this individual from living in Northport, Florida, this woman named Lynette, or Lynette, she apparently was an obsessed fan. I'll get to why I say obsessed, because she decided to buy property across the road from part of the new What the Hales property in Florida. So she had a really nice house in Northport where she lived with her ex-husband named John, and they had a daughter that they had adopted. And we'll just call her HG, because those are the initials of the daughter. Now, Lynette, she has been married 7 times. Her ex-husband, John, was her 7th husband. She goes by multiple different names. So on the What the Hales channel and other YouTube channels that are covering all of this, the majority of the time they refer to her as LMNOP, because it's but play on words, because of how many names that she's got that she uses. Over time, it has come to light that she is a compulsive liar. She is a compulsive grifter. She's always online asking people for money, for donations, for this and that and what have you. There are some YouTube channels that have gone and have researched her past, and discovered all of this stuff, and I will talk about those channels in later videos. Apparently she's a former stripper, so she used to do fancy dancing for men for money. And she also claims to be an ordained minister. Now, I'm saying she claims to be because, well, there's no sign of certification, but she does advertise for it she has advertised for being a minister and to marry people and whatnot. So yeah, so anyways, now HG is currently a 6-year-old little girl who is still not potty trained, and which is not good. At 6 years of age, not potty trained, not in school. Apparently she's being quote unquote homeschooled. by Lynette, who's claiming that she can't have anybody else take care of the child because she has a life-threatening metabolic disorder. It's, I cannot remember the name of it, but it's actually not life-threatening. It just means that her body can't process protein or something like that. She just needs to be on a special diet. That's it. But anyways, so when Lynette discovered that Jeremy was buying property, that Jeremy and George were buying property in Florida, she found out where in Florida, and the only way that you could find out this information was through members only. His members only, because he didn't reveal it right away for just the general subscribers. It was only in his members only videos. And some of that video footage he actually released later for regular subscribers. So she found this property that was a vacant chunk of land, and and it had actually, like, it had been vacant for a number of years, and it had been used as a dumping ground for garbage for a while from people that just couldn't be bothered to go to the dump, which is free, because it was just closer. Yeah. So anyways, she paid, so they went and they were taking a look at this property, and she reached out to Jeremy, apparently in an email. She reached out to him and said, yeah, we're your new neighbors. We just bought this property, yada, yada. Can you bring your tractor over and help us move a log that's blocking the driveway? And Jeremy, being the nice guy that he is, took his tractor over and helped with moving said log. While he was there, he met Lynette, and he met this other lady who was, at the time, a friend of Lynette's, named Jamie. And then John was there as well. John and another individual, they were working on trying to get the log out of there. And so anyways, that was the first time that he had actually met Lynette, and John and Jamie. Over time, they interacted more and more. But after this initial meeting, apparently Lynette and John went back to Northport, put their house up for sale, sold it, and then bought the property that they claimed that they already owned, that she claimed that they already owned. So apparently that means they were on the property illegally. They didn't have permission to be on the property, so they were trespassing, and they lied and manipulated Jeremy into trespassing as well, and moving that log. They did not actually have permission to do any of that stuff. But that didn't come to light until many months later. So Lynette and John, they sold their property in Northport. They bought a camper, and they stayed in the camper at a campground in Otter Creek, and until they had managed to clear off enough of the land, clear up enough space on the land to put the camper. And they got the camper on there, and they started living there and getting things set up, and they've been taking care of turtles and tortoises for a number of years. But they then started up a 501c3, which is a non-profit organization, turtle rescue or tortoise rescue at that time. And And because Jeremy has always joked around on his channel about liking turtles, and so she was hoping to use that to try and get Jeremy to help out and whatnot. So she's ever since moving there, had been trying to interject herself into the What the Hell's life. And then she also at one point tried running for town council, but didn't make it. Any time Jeremy or George would interact with her, with Lynette, she would complain about John, her ex-husband, and how abusive he is, and she doesn't want him there, and yada yada yada. If she could, she would try to get rid of him. She just didn't want him there because of how abusive he was, and she never trusts him with her daughter, and yeah, just always complaining. But she would always try, she would always try to, every so often she would pester Jeremy for something, to get something for free from something that she saw in one of his videos about the storage units and whatnot. He only ever gave her a couple of Leap pads, which are like little gaming tablet type deals for children. So that was it. Nothing else. And then at one point, and then he eventually he had this event that I mentioned in the previous video called Half Mil Time to Grill, when he reached 500,000 subscribers. They spent a lot of money on being able to host this event, because there was the cost of renting the facility where they had the event. There was the cost of the food that was catered, and it was catered by his favorite restaurant down there, Barbecue. And then there were goodie bags, gift bags as well. And so there was the cost of everything for the gift bags. And then there had to pay for private security. And they also rented a dunk tank too. And they had also saved a bunch of stuff from some storage units of things to give away as gifts at the event. And just so that they could get a clear number on how many people were actually going to be there, they had like an admissions fee of $50 per person. If it turned out, just so that they knew exactly how many people were going to be there, and for every person who registered, so it was a registration fee. Every person that registered got a goodie bag. So then they were able to, in the goodie bags, there were, you could get a What the Hales t-shirt, an actual t-shirt with the logo that says What the Hales, and it also said Half Mil Time to Grill on it. So only so many people could, only the people that were actually there could get the t-shirt. And then there was also a marker, like a permanent Sharpie marker that was included in the goodie bag with a bunch of other stuff, so that you could actually take your t-shirt around and get like autographs from Jeremy and George, and there were some other YouTubers there that were his friends that he has helped with creating YouTube channels. One of those people, and one individual in particular, is not a friend of his anymore, and I will get into that in a later video. But anyways, so she asked if she asked for permission to be able to come for free, and instead of paying for the registration fee of $50, if she could just bring some of her turtles for people to interact with at the event. And he said, yeah, sure, why not, whatever. Later, she asked if she could have a donation box there for her turtle rescue. He said, no, that's not what this event is for. No donation box. When he said no, that was it. she decided, she did a complete 180 and started bashing on him and saying bad things and calling him names, and she ended up lying basically about him and accusing him of stuff, but not to his face. Instead, behind his back, online, and then her and John, her and another individual, created, they made up a bunch of signs that John helped post around town. And these signs were terrible, terrible signs. They said terrible things about Jeremy. But there's no specific time frame as to how long these signs had been up, except the only people that would actually specifically know are the ones that actually put them up. And in a roundabout way, John, in a roundabout way, actually admitted to Lynette creating the signs and him posting them in a deposition, which I'll get to later. Anyways, the signs were actually spotted by some other individuals that were also friends of Jeremy's, and they took pictures of the signs before they removed them from the ground to give to Jeremy. But at the time that these signs were created and put up, discovered and removed, and taken to the schoolhouse, because by that time he owned the schoolhouse, an old schoolhouse building. And also by that time he also had an employee that lives there full time, and I'll get into that in another video as well. Sorry, there's a lot of information, and I'm just doling it out in little bits here and there. So if you want to learn more, like, subscribe, comment too, ask questions. Go ahead, ask questions. I'll cover them in later videos. As things progress, I will share links to other YouTube channels, the other YouTube channels that are talking about this stuff as well. But yeah, so see, I'm working on going through all of this, and yeah. So anyways, and yes, at times I will jump back and forth between all of this stuff. Like, I forgot to mention that Lynette was the one that actually started recording the town council meetings, and her and John had actually posted a big sign on their property, complaining about the corruption in the town council, which was why she claims she ran for a seat on town council, because of the corruption. And the first time that Jeremy actually talked about anything to do with that town was to do with the corruption in the town council. He never even mentioned anything to do with Lynette and her actions towards everybody else, everybody and everything, not until after everything else, the majority of the town council issues had been dealt with. But yeah, he revealed the corruption in the town council. Something else I'll talk about in a later video. So anyways, so that's all of that stuff. So not long, I can't remember, I'm quite sure the cease and desist was done after the defamatory signs. But yeah, Jeremy sent her a cease and desist through an attorney. He always consults with an attorney before he does anything legally, just to make sure that he's doing it right, so that it doesn't come back to kick him in the butt in court. Be used against him in court later. So, let's see. That's all of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, yes. And also, one of the, also with the property, they had the 501c3. So they have turtles in pens, very poorly maintained areas. They also had chickens and ducks, and they took very poor care of any and all animals. They also have apparently a couple of, like, 2 or 3 dogs or what have you. But they've also moved people onto the property. And one of the first people, actually, I think the first person that moved onto the property was this friend of Lynette's named Jamie. You remember her from the first time meeting Jeremy in person. Jamie, yes. She was, apparently, Lynette said that Jamie was the godmother to HG, the little girl. So Jamie's ex-husband brought a camper, had a camper placed on the property for Jamie to live in, for while she was, like, to stay in for while she was there. Basically, things got to the point where Lynette, in a roundabout way, chased Jamie off the property, called her said a bunch of bad, terrible things about her because Jamie stopped. Like, Jamie just stopped believing what Lynette was saying about anything. Well, mainly about, like, Jeremy and whatnot, because she was starting to see for herself in reality what Lynette is actually like. A woman that just doesn't know how to stop yelling, cursing, belittling, insulting, just terrible, terrible person. I know this from the video footage that I have seen. There is video proof out there. I don't have any of the video proof. I'm just explaining what I remember from what I've seen on actual videos. If you're interested in seeing this, you can find all this information out on the What the Hills channel and other YouTube channels that I will, of course, talk about later. But anyways, okay, let me see here. What else? So yeah, she pretty much chased Jamie off the property. And before Jamie was able to go back to get the camper, because apparently she was trying to make it so that she could keep the camper, so that Jamie couldn't take it. But apparently the cops got involved, and it turned out that the camper was actually stolen camper, so that it got hauled off the property. CPS, I don't know, it's got to be over 40 times now that CPS, that's Child Protective Services, it's different, it's called different things in different, wherever you are, it's something different. Like here, last I looked, it was Ministry for Children and Family Development, or MCFD. But it's still social services. So they have made multiple visits to the property. But I don't know why. Like, nobody knows why she still has this child in her care. Because there's actual video footage from Fish and Game that took place at one point on the property. And in the video footage, the body cam video footage, you can actually see and hear Lynette telling HG, the little child, to be careful because there's broken glass, and there's nails on the ground. Not safe for the child to be running around loose. Yeah. So that's not good. But yeah, so other people that have been moved onto the property, they've had homeless people and known drug addicts on the property. And Lynette always claims, no, we don't have those types of people on the property because of my child's health condition. Yeah. And then at one point she even had her own grandson on the property with his girlfriend and a friend, a good friend. So 3 young adults came to stay on the to live there and help out and whatnot. And at that point, there was also an older gentleman that they had manipulated into moving his camper onto the property to live there as well. An old Army veteran named Lloyd. And he was an older gentleman, and things happened. So anyways, so he is no longer on the property either. But yeah, no one has stayed on that property longer than a few months. I think Lloyd was one of the longest living there. Her grandson and his girlfriend and friend, they eventually moved back to where they had come from. But so they also at one point claimed to have a contract with, oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of it. It eludes me at the moment, but leftover produce from this one grocery store. She claims that she had a contract with the manager to be able to collect old produce that was just going to get thrown out, and that she could feed to the animals. At one point she claimed, she admitted in a Facebook post that she was giving this food to homeless people in exchange for their help working on the property. And she has also given some of this produce to Jeremy and George for their chickens, because at the time they had a whole bunch of chickens. Let's see what else. But then Jeremy debunked this contract with the store by going to the store and speaking with the actual manager. And it came to light that the actual manager did not know anything about this contract. It was actually an employee that was going behind the manager's back and giving this produce to Lynette for the animals. And this individual got fired. Later on, this individual ended up staying on the property for a bit and then was arrested on the property. But that's also another later story. Yeah, that's actually everything that's on this page. Okay, also, yeah, that. Oh yeah, and Lynette is notorious for calling, or was notorious for calling 911 with complaints about Jeremy or George or anything that was going on out there. And some of this actually I've already talked about. Yeah. So, yeah, she would complain about this and that, and to do with the property, and yeah. So I'm actually at the half hour point. I'm gonna call it for now. I will talk about more about it. Like how Jeremy was able to actually apply for a restraining order or protection order against Lynette and John, because at one point, Lynette would call and complain that people were driving past her place, going flying down the road at 70 miles an hour. It's not that long of a road. You don't have enough. There's not enough time to get up to 70 miles per hour in front of her property. And it takes even longer with a diesel truck, which is what Jeremy has, is a diesel truck. It's a big Dodge Ram diesel truck. And you can hear that thing coming from takes a couple of minutes for it to get to you after you actually start to hear it. So Jeremy would drive really, really slowly past the property, and he always records as he's going by. And at one point in time, John was outside when Jeremy was driving by really slowly, and he was recording while he was going by, and he's like, yeah, you can see the garbage here and this and that, and pointing out just how deplorable the conditions of the property were. And then all of a sudden there's John, and he's like yelling out at Jeremy and calling him names and calling him out, trying to call him out. And then all of a sudden he reaches into his pocket and pulls out, swings it around a little bit, points it at Jeremy, puts it back in his pocket. But Jeremy didn't notice because he was too busy focused on driving to notice until after he got to his destination, and then he was going over the video at that time, and then he called his attorney and told his attorney what he had discovered on the video, and then his attorney's like, yeah, call the cops. So he did. To do with that. But I'll get into more detail about all that stuff later in another video. Until then, I'm going to go and try and remember other things. But yeah, leave a comment. Ask questions. Go right ahead. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think. But yeah, so until next time, bye.